We're talking with Sam Faddis, one of the most brilliant national security experts that I know. He's worked in the field, he writes, just a terrific guy. But he's pointed out some serious problems that we have. A controlled asset in the White House, potentially. The Chinese maybe deciding to invade Taiwan, which would disrupt the global economy. I'm worried that they're going to try and take down the US dollar and replace it with the digital yuan and all. Maybe they released a biological weapon. Maybe there are other weapons that they're set to release. All of these are problems. What do we do, Sam? How do we fix this?
Well, Kevin, I think, honestly, let's just focus on China first for a second, right? We obviously need an investigation of Joe Biden, and a real investigation, not a pro forma, let's sweep everything under the rug and move on kind of thing. But I think we got to roll back the tape to when we climbed in bed with the communist Chinese, if we're just talking about that threat, right? We sold this thing on this idea that this was all cool, because they were going to liberalize and democratize, and we were going to turn them into friendly power. I don't know to what extent the people that sold us that bill of goods were ever believed it, or to what extent it was propaganda designed to get the American people to support it. But I think you have to admit, anybody has to admit at this point, that it didn't work out like that, man. You know, we made the dragon bigger, stronger, more vicious, more capable of controlling and crushing its own people. We fed the monster. And so we got to start by saying this path we are on is self-destructive. We are destroying the republic and enabling our enemy. And we got to go back and revisit that decision, I think, first and foremost. We got to say, you got to climb out of bed economically with the Chinese Communist Party.
You know, when you go back to that, China was, when the book Unrestricted Warfare was published, China's economy was 1/10 the size of the American economy. It was roughly on par with Italy, right? And nobody sees the Italian economy as a globalist threat. How they got there was most favored nation status. It was a lot of really bad trade deals that we did. You know, Donald Trump was right about so much. We favored them in so many ways, and then it's the globalist movement that allows them to be exempt from, you know, the clean air and the carbon dioxide emissions and so forth.
Yeah, and of course, what has happened along the road as this has all happened is that not only are we giving the Chinese the means they need to build a nuclear weapons arsenal to threaten us and a navy and all of these other things, but we're giving them the money to buy influence in the United States. You know, the House just voted to establish a committee, and I think succeeded in establishing a committee to investigate Chinese actions. And something like, I think the number 64 Democratic House of Representatives, Democratic congressmen and women stood up and voted against it, branding it as anti-Asian sentiment and racism, right? Here you're trying. So you're like, okay, well, first of all, that line is straight out of Beijing's playbook. That's straight. Xi Jinping, I guess, wrote those talking points. But also, it's like, okay, there's at least 64 congresspeople who are owned by the Chinese Communist Party and dare. I mean, they have self-identified. I guess that's the good news. So forget about like Eric Swalwell and Fang Fang or Ling Ling or whatever her name is. This is not about one guy. This is about them on an industrial scale buying the American elite. And that's the real danger is like, you see, we need to turn the ship. But man, we got people on board that are working for the other side and don't want to turn the ship. You know, they already sold out. They've already accepted that the Chinese win this.
I know, that's frightening to me, but I recall in 1996, Charlie Tree and a Little Rock Chinese restaurant owner was funneling money into the Democrats and the Clinton campaign in 1996. It's all acknowledged. They were interfering in our election. No question about it. It's in the Washington Post, LA Times, New York Times. Everybody acknowledged they did that, but they swept it under the rug. And yet with President Trump, they bring out all of these false allegations of Russian interference in the 2016. So here we're talking, you know, just 20 years later, And they're making something out of nothing then, and they're ignoring something that was very real. That was the beginning, in my mind, of when they started to buy the Democrats.